Kindly be seated. Your Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, President of Zanzibar and the Chairperson of the Revolutionary Council, former presidents here present among us, Chairperson of the AU Commission, His Excellency Mahamat Faki, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, His Excellency Bankole Adeoye, distinguished leaders and representatives from the Republic of Mozambique, representing the President of Mozambique, distinguished leader and representative of the President of Mauritania as the Chairperson of the African Union, distinguished representative of Presidents of the Republic of Uganda as PSC Troika, honorable ministers here present of the United Republic of Tanzania, led by our two ministers, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Minister for Defense, Chief Secretaries of the United Republic of Tanzania and that of Zanzibar, permanent secretaries here present among us, honorable members of the Peace and Security Council here present, honorable members and excellencies from diplomatic community around Tanzania here present, government officials and government workers, students who have joined us in this auspicious occasion, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you from the city of Dar es Salaam, the hub of peace, as we're celebrating the 20th African Union Peace and Security Council anniversary. It gives me a great pleasure to be directing this morning's event, which will take us through what we have achieved as Africans in these last 20 years in the manner that it is projected. Before I welcome Minister for Foreign Affairs to give his remarks, Your Excellency, Madam President, may I take this opportunity to ask and request for all of us to stand once again in remembering, to stand in silence for 1 minute in remembering and in honor of victims of conflicts in African region. May we all rise. Thank you. May we take our seat. This is in honor of all the victims that have been affected by conflicts in Africa for the last 20 years and even beyond for the last 61 years of the existence of the African Union. Now, Madam President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce the Minister for Foreign Affairs to give his introductory remarks. Karibu Mheshimiwa January Makamba.
Your Excellency, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, the President of Zanzibar and the Chairman of the Revolutionary Council, former Presidents who are here, Chairperson of the AU Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, Commissioner for the Political Affairs of Peace and Security Council, Ambassador Bankole Adeoye, distinguished leaders from the Republic of Mozambique, representing the President of Mozambique, distinguished representatives of the Presidents of Mauritania, who is the Chair of the African Union, the Honorable Minister present representing the President of Uganda, Honorable Minister of Defense, Chief Secretary of the United Republic of Tanzania, and Zanzibar Permanent Secretaries present here today, members of the Peace and Security Council, government officials present, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me, on behalf of Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan, and on behalf of the government of Tanzania, it gives me singular privilege to welcome all of you to Tanzania, your second home, and most especially to welcome you to this important high-level colloquium as we mark the 20th anniversary of the establishment of the African Union Peace and Security Council. It is with great privilege that I extend our deepest appreciation to Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, for hosting this momentous occasion and for her leadership in the preparation of the events of this commemoration. Her leadership in this endeavor, in agreeing to host these commemorations and leading these preparations, really demonstrate Tanzania's unwavering dedication to the principles of unity, solidarity, and collective action treasured by the African Union. Her Excellency, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, has given us, the entire continent, the AU Commission, and peace-loving Africans, the platform to reflect on the 2 decades of the journey of AU Peace and Security Council. Therefore, we cannot help but celebrate the progress made over the past 20 years in promoting peace, security, and stability across our continent. We therefore hope to take this opportunity offered here today by our country to discuss the current challenges and reaffirm our commitment to working together with all the stakeholders towards shaping an agenda for peace and security in our continent and building a more peaceful, a more secure, and prosperous Africa. It is befittingly coinciding with our Africa Day, symbolizing our collective aspiration for a peaceful and prosperous Africa. The government of the United Republic of Tanzania extends its heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for honoring the invitation to attend these commemorations. As your host, Tanzania feel immensely privileged and deeply honored by your esteemed presence here today. We hold your visit with high regard because it not only signifies your commitment to peace and security in Africa, but also underscores the importance of collective effort in advancing the critical agenda on the continent. We will therefore spare no effort to ensure your comfort and satisfaction during your stay in our country. I also wish to thank the entire African Union Peace and Security Council members for accepting to include this high-level colloquium in the provisional program of the work of the Council in this month of May, and indeed for accepting Tanzania's offer to host. Furthermore, I wish to thank all the Peace and Security Council members and indeed the AU Commission for continued support you are extending to Tanzania. Absolutely without doubt, without your support, we would not have been reached this far. Therefore, we thank you very much. I think this is, you helped me with a bit of a clap here to give me a bit of energy. Thank you very much. As politicians, we feed on this, so thank you very much for giving me some energy. Your Excellency, I'm sure that I can only safely and proudly state that from the memorable days of one of Africa's greatest sons and founders of our union, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, whose this hall is named after, to the present day, Tanzania's Pan-African commitment and contribution towards the promotion of free and united and peaceful and prosperous Africa remain undisputable. With our limited capacity as Tanzania, we hosted the Secretariat of the Organization of African Unity Liberation Committee and, relatedly, mentioned many liberation movements, as we strongly believe that our independence as Tanzania would have been meaningless, would have been incomplete without the independence of the whole continent. We are delighted that our achievement as the entire continent is now largely independent. As we gather today, Tanzania as a country that has always been on the forefront of peace and security in Africa continues to contribute significantly towards peace and development of our dear continent. We are working this by, among other things, contributing troops and police contingents to the AU peace support operations, United Nations peacekeeping missions, including the well-known AU-UN hybrid mission in Darfur, Liberia, under ECOMOG, and SADC International Intervention Brigade in the Eastern DRC, and now also taking part in SADC mission in the Eastern DRC and also Mozambique. These are but a few of many examples of our sacrifices and contribution towards the realization of Africa's noble goal of silencing the guns in Africa by 2030. Your Excellencies, as a Pan-African country, Tanzania reaffirms its unwavering commitment to continue the trajectory set by our founding fathers, building on our remarkable track record, which we will always maintain. We are committed to a free, united, peaceful, and prosperous Africa. We will always stand ready to play our part in ensuring that we do not bequeath to the next generation of Africans the scourges of war and conflict, but instead to effectively create the conducive condition for the realization of the Africa we want. This commitment is not just a statement, but a guiding principle that informs all of our actions and decisions. In conclusion, I wish to express Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan hopes and expectation that this high-level colloquium, with your esteemed presence and valuable contribution, will not only be a resounding success, but also will significantly contribute towards the shaping of the peace and security architecture in the continent for the next 20 years, and perhaps even beyond. Your insights and experiences and recommendations are invaluable in this process, and we look forward to a fruitful and enriching discussion. Excellencies, again, thank you very much for your presence here today, and I want to reiterate the commitment of our President to ensuring that your stay here is comfortable, and that, as is tradition of Tanzania, that you live with good memories after you go back home. Thank you all for your kind attention. Asanteni sana na karibuni sana Tanzania.
Thank you very much, Honorable Makamba, Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation. It is indeed a beautiful day in the Mwalimu Julius Nyerere International Conference Center, and we are celebrating one of the African heroes in this very special day in promoting peace and security in the continent of Africa. Excellency, Madam President, Your Excellency, the President of Zanzibar, and all distinguished dignitaries in the room, together with the 15 members of the Peace and Security Council here present, ladies and gentlemen. We have listened to the remarks by the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Now, we are only moving on to see how this has been done, how the Council, this Peace and Security Council at the AU, when was it born, how has it been faring, and now moving forward, what should we expect? I welcome now the PSC in 20 minutes. Presentation by the African Union Peace and Security Council. Studio, please cue in.
This 5-minute video briefly highlights the work of the Peace and Security Council for the past 20 years in commemorating its 20th anniversary. The Peace and Security Council is established in accordance with Article 5(2) of the AU Constitutive Act as a standing decision-making organ for preventing, managing, and resolving conflicts. It consists of 15 members representing 55 members from the 5 regions of the African Union. The decisions of the Peace and Security Council are binding on all 55 AU member states. Its main mandate is to promote peace, security, and stability in Africa. The powers of the Peace and Security Council include anticipating and preventing disputes and conflicts, authorize deployments of peace support missions, recommend to the Assembly of the Union on intervention in respect of grave circumstances, and application of sanctions where unconstitutional changes of government take place in a member state. The Peace and Security Council Protocol has been signed and ratified by 53 AU member states. During the inauguration of the Peace and Security Council on 25 May 2004, only 32 member states have ratified the protocol. This major milestone shows commitment of member states in addressing peace and security challenges on the continent. The top 10 serving member states in the Peace and Security Council are Nigeria, which has been a member of the Peace and Security Council since its establishment, followed by Algeria, South Africa, Burundi, Uganda, Cameroon, Djibouti, Egypt, Kenya, and Congo. 12 member states have not served as members of the Peace and Security Council. From Central Region are Central African Republic and Sao Tome and Principe. From Eastern Region are Comoros, Eritrea, Madagascar, Mauritius, Seychelles, Somalia, and South Sudan. From Northern Region, Sahrawi Republic. From the Western Region, Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau. In the Southern Region, all member states have had an opportunity to serve as members of the Peace and Security Council. The following country situations have been on the top agenda of the Council since its establishment, namely Somalia, Central African Republic, Mali, Sudan, Guinea-Bissau, Libya, South Sudan, Cote d'Ivoire, which is no longer on the agenda of the Peace and Security Council, DRC, Guinea, Madagascar, Burkina Faso, and Comoros. The top thematic issues are elections in Africa, unconstitutional changes of government, terrorism and violent extremism, humanitarian action, women, peace and security, children in armed conflicts, youth, peace and security, early warning, and climate change. Regional issues are Sahel and the Horn of Africa. On peace and support operations, the PSC has authorized 4 missions, 2 humanitarian missions, mandated 15 missions, and endorsed the deployment of 10 regional missions. The Peace and Security Council has undertaken 44 field missions in conflict and post-conflict countries across the continent. South Sudan and Sudan, which includes Darfur, as well as Somalia, are the most visited countries by the Peace and Security Council. From 2004 to date, in line with its powers stipulated in its protocol, the Peace and Security Council has suspended 13 AU member states due to unconstitutional changes of government. In total, the Peace and Security Council has suspended member states 21 times, taking into consideration that some member states have been suspended more than once. In terms of days, Madagascar has the highest number of days under suspension. To date, 6 countries, namely Mali, Guinea, Sudan, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Gabon, are still under suspension. For more information on the work and activities of the Peace and Security Council, you are welcome to visit the PABS repository.
Your Excellency, Madam President, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that was a 5-minute explanation on the 20th anniversary of the Peace and Security Council. It is indeed that this moment we are reaffirming our collective commitment to building a secure, peaceful, and prosperous Africa. Now, to be aligned in this theme of this year's celebration, may I now invite to the podium His Excellency Mahamat Musa Faki, the Commissioner for the African Union, to give his strategic direction statement. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana.
Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania and the Chair of the Peace and Security Council for the month of May. Your Excellency, President of Zanzibar, Excellencies, former Head of State, Excellencies, Member of the Panel for Voice, Excellency, the representative of the Chair of the Union, distinguished members of the Council, Excellency Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, invited partners, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by congratulating Your Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania and Chairperson of the African Union Peace and Security Council for May 2024 on the exemplary manner with which Tanzania is steering the affairs of the Council this month. I commend Your Excellency and indeed the entire PSC for organizing this event on this very important day, Africa Day. This day reminds us of the liberation struggle of the continent and the crucial role played by the Liberation Committee, which was generously hosted by Tanzania. One can almost assert that the Liberation Committee to be the precursor of the current Peace and Security Council. History reminds us that the official launch of the Peace and Security Council at the level of head of state on 25th May 2004 under the leadership of His Excellency former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who at the time was President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are extremely privileged to have you among us today, Baba, and we are proud of your achievements. For peace and security in Africa. Excellencies, distinguished members of the Peace and Security Council, today, the 20th anniversary of the PAC provides us with an excellent opportunity to reflect on this organ and to evaluate its work. I must say straight away that I have been waiting for a meeting of this kind for some time, devoted to responsible, serious, and uncompromising reflection on this central organ of peace and security architecture, and even beyond that, the African political architecture as a whole. My contribution to this crucial debate is the result of my empirical observation and experience that my position as chairperson of the Commission has allowed me to develop over the past 7 years. I would like to begin by briefly highlighting four major contributions made by the PAC to peace and security on the continent. In the heyday of its development, the PAC has over the years established fundamental principles for continental peace and security. The intimate link between peace and development, the solution of African problems by Africans themselves, the rejection of violent solutions to African conflicts, the promotion of mediation and political dialogue, the rejection of external interference, and the unwavering commitment to the independence, sovereignty, integrity, and unity of African states have all become part of the collective imagination. The impetus given to the continent's effort to resolve a number of crises in DRC, Comoros, Côte d'Ivoire, South Sudan, Somalia, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Libya, among others, was notable milestones in this action. Soft cooperation between the PAC and the United Nations Security Council has gradually been established, given greater visibility and recognition to our primary instrument for peace and security. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, despite these positive elements, which I mentioned so as not to indulge in self-flagellation, does not seem to me to be the time for blissful self-satisfaction. There are a few challenges that I think deserve your attention more than others. I'm going to take a closer look at some of them. First among these challenges is the urgent need to assess the liberty taken with the basic principles of our continental organization, starting with the Declaration of Algiers, the Lomé Declaration, the AU Constitutive Act, the protocol establishing the PAC, and the African Charter on Democracy, Governance, and Elections in particular. To these relevant basic texts were added the Accra Declaration, the Malabo Summit Declaration on Unconstitutional Changes of Government, and the outcomes of the recent Accra Conference, reiterating yet again zero tolerance in this area. What have we not proclaimed loud and clear? What have we not done in the opposite direction? A very simple example. Article 19 of the African Charter on Democracy, Election and Governance expressly proclaims that each state party must inform the Commission of scheduled election in the said country and invite it to deploy an electoral observation mission. How many countries have refused to inform the Commission and invite it to observe the elections in their country without incurring the slightest sanction? Excellencies, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, as everyone knows, the guiding idea of this honorable organ was to ensure value-based management of peace and security issues in Africa by Africans themselves. The background to this was and remains the protection of member states against external interference, whether rival or ally. The endogenous and exogenous content of this principle has been abused because certain values has been overlooked. Recourse to foreign forces and powers has taken root with impunity in our space. The notorious lack of inter-African solidarity has left member states beset by insoluble demands for peace and security with no way out. Populism was unleashed and unconstitutional changes of government quickly proliferated. Moreover, let us admit the PSC accommodated itself in some cases, either by refusing to apply the suspension when it essentially qualified a change as an unconstitutional change of government, or by refusing to apply sanctions when its decisions were violated, particularly with regard to the prohibition of the authors of unconstitutional change from standing as candidates in the election after the transitional period. And all those who drew attention to it, intellectuals, civil society actors, or African leaders, were treated as protesters, embittered, calculating people. The incongruity was pushed to its peak when we observed a regional economic community chaired by a member state suspended by your distinguished organ in presence of PEC members. The distortion of the concept of subsidiarity has worsened the problem. This overused concept has suffered a strange and very worrying fate. Instead of being the basis of which a dynamic, fruitful, and supportive complementarity terrace, it has become the doctrinal support for a belittling of continental bodies promoted by the apparent or hidden supporters of the abandonment of the principles and decisions of the continental organization. In this way, subsidiarity has become the main ideological referent to trivialize, indeed downright paralyze, the main organ of the entire AU peace and security architecture. This situation refers to the situation of the RECs, most of which are also in difficulty. So some of their important decisions are thus taken in ignorance, or indeed sometimes in disdain of the decision of the Peace and Security Council. The question now arises as to which one has primacy, the continental body or the regional body, which should submit to the other. Why is there contradiction while the revised protocol on the relation between the RECs and the AU stipulates that the AU must ensure the coordination and harmonization of the continental peace and security policies? Why does a member state, whether a member of council or not, when put in difficulty by a decision of the PSC, seeks and finds through the regional organization the means to free itself from the decision of the PSC, Why tolerate this practice? In the same vein, the United Nations continues to receive among its bodies and fora the African states suspended by the PSC. Moreover, some use this participation to settle their scores with the African organization. The tough question we are facing is this: how can we continue to take decisions and adopt communiques which are constantly violated without any sanction against the authors of the violation? What can we say today to the transition authorities in Africa, where the militaries will run for elections? We know today that all of them will run and will claim that they win. Let us be frank. If we are unable to do anything, why we don't revisit our legal arsenal and be harmonious with ourselves? This is more credible than continuing to decide and communicate while we know that no one among the authors of the violation and their partners in crimes will listen to us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, another manifestation of the slump of the organs appears clearly in the indecision and frequent division we sometimes suspend decision-making. To overcome these difficulties, the practice established was been to seek compromises. In principle, compromises are better than nothing, indeed. This is not debatable. However, when compromises end up emptying decisions and their meaning by making them vague and imprecise, this is simply the abandonment of principles and the perversion of the original soul of the fine work that is PSC. Another phenomenon has compounded the situation. This is the personalization of the positions of members of the Council. Instead of sticking to the founding principles and general interests of Africa, we have observed, in some cases, members detaching themselves and choose to assert strictly national individual positions while ignoring all the founding values of the institution. This commodification of the organ has caused serious damage to its prestige, credibility, and effectiveness, not only in Africa, but also with partners such as the United Nations Security Council and other international or regional bodies responsible for global peace. Excellency, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, the list of challenges facing the PSC is long. I cannot bore you any further with it. However, I cannot conclude these remarks without mentioning the limits of the Council means of action. The modesty of the Council means of intervention cannot be underestimated. I do not wish to dwell on the size of the budget allocated to the Council. They suffer the fate of all the Union's bodies. I will rather emphasize the Council's lack of any means of coercion or of imposing its decisions. This congenital weakness makes the operational function of Council a complete pipe dream. Where is the African Army? Where is the standby force? Where is the Rapid Intervention Brigade? All these ambitious projects, whose implementation would have enhanced the peace intervention capabilities, if only to act as deterrent, have been left to rest in drawers. Reactivating them is a duty and a responsibility that we all share, beginning with myself as chairperson of the Commission. But the leading role here unquestionably belongs to the PSC and above all to the Conference of head of state and government. Excellencies, President, honorable members of the Council, Commissioner, the combination of all these factors expressed here with the modesty required by my position has dangerously reduced the Council operational capacity. By affecting its credibility, it has had a negative impact on the moral significance of its decisions. Indeed, how can we maintain that African problems must be resolved by Africans themselves and accept that their central instrument for doing so should be weakened, let alone accept that it could risk losing its soul? We are greatly challenged to provide, as a matter of urgency, the appropriate remedies. Perhaps its inclusion in the list of organs to be reformed within the framework of the institutional reform could help cool the wrong. I sincerely think that we must go beyond what could be suggested within this framework to engage in a bolder and a more meaningful overhaul. Any delay, any hesitation, any procrastination in outlining and resolute application of the chosen therapy should contribute to the withering away, perhaps even to the definitive dormancy of the prestigious and the precious tool that is PSC. I call upon you to combine our will and our intelligence to initiate and lead the redeeming enterprise of overhauling this primordial organ and our attitudes towards its noble mission. I say it out loud and clear: there is no future for our peace and security architecture without a reimagined, redesigned, repositioned, revitalized, resourced, reoriented Peace and Security Council. In doing so, we will not only be investing in the future, we will also be fulfilling a duty to the memory of our founder fathers, and particularly of Muallim Julius Nyerere, who gave his name not only to this center, but also to the building that is the home of Peace and Security Council at our headquarters in Addis Ababa. For this important mission, I sincerely extend my hands to you and assure you of my commitment, which is a sacred duty and obligation. In conclusion, allow me once again to extend my sincere and warm thanks to you, Madam President, the government and people of Tanzania for the generous hospitality and the excellent condition you offer to us on this Africa Day. I congratulate all of you, honorable members of the Council, and the staff of the Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security for the hard work. I also wish to recognize the presence of my brother Said Jinit, the first commissioner of the then Department of Peace and Security. I'm also delighted to see El Gassim Wan and Dr. Kambuzi and others who have played a pivotal role in this department during their respective tenures. And I want also to congratulate the partners for their support. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
Another round of applause for His Excellency's words. Indeed, it is a strategic statement. We are reflecting from our forefathers what they have done to the current leaders what we are about to do, but also making sure that we're taking it to the future generation, to our children and our children's children, so that they don't forget to remember what our forefathers fought for, what we have accomplished together as we're celebrating 20th year of Peace and Security Council. Let us all collectively reaffirm our commitment to building a more secure, peaceful, and prosperous Africa for our future generation. Welcoming to the stage now is a cultural display. Your Excellency, Madam President, Your Excellency, President of Zanzibar, distinguished leaders present here today, and especially to all our uniform members from the uniform organs of peace and security, and to all peace lovers in the world and in Africa. We are about to showcase in the spirit of Tanzanian what this anniversary means. It is an honor for the anniversary to be happening in Dar es Salaam in the Julius Nyerere Conference Center, because this is all it began. This is where the peace lies. This is our union between Tanzania Bara and Tanzania Visiwani, which means Tanzania mainland and Tanzania islands in the Zanzibar. This is where it all began. Bringing to the stage is a group of Tanzanian young people and old generation. It's a multi-generational group performing Hini Africa. That's also the name of the group. But it's their own expression as young people and old generation passing on the baton, just like our forefathers did to this generation and to the future generation. Karibu Hini Africa for your performance.
Greetings. Habari, shikamo. My name is Sarah and I'm 12. And this is my sister Julie, she's 12 too. We're gonna tell you some of our African heroes. So Julie, tell them about Kwame Nkrumah from Ghana.
I am Kwame Nkrumah's dream, Africa's very own dignity restoration. I am the generation he fought to relieve, to be free from slavery and colonialization. I am the reason for their struggles and liberation. I am the vision of one Africa that lived in him, the very spirit of Pan-Africanism.
Let them know about the Home warriors from Benin.
I am the Home warriors, fierceness. I am one woman army born fearless. I fight or I die to protect my African kingdom like a lioness. I am a legit, ultimate warrior. For my land, I've killed my tears. I train for strength, speed, and bravery, ready to fight for my mama land, because some things I was fighting for. I take great pride in calling Africa home, and in me lives everything heroically, historically, strong.
Tell them about Haile Selassie from Ethiopia.
I am Haile Selassie's imperial heritage. I hail from dynasty, the legendary lineage. I am dashed by King Solomon's wisdom and blushed by Queen of Sheba's beauty, as he rose to power defending our rights from those who thought themselves might. His political and social reform birthed our very own African constitution, our institution, and on the shoulder of this African Union Father I gather his messianic leadership, Jah Rastafari. Worship.
Tell them about Wangari Maathai from Kenya.
I am Wangari Maathai, Mother Nature's awareness, an African Nobel Prize climate consciousness. With each tree she plants, peace and hope, healing our land and our global territory scope. As she fought against oppression, her championing justice for women, her democratic rights has become my inspiration. Her saying, "You cannot enslave a mind that knows itself," is my new aspiration. I vow to value myself as I vow to understand myself.
Let me tell you about Nelson Mandela from South Africa.
Amandla.
I am Nelson Mandela's royalty, dressed in forgiveness, ability. I strive to resemble his power and grace, to forgive evil and hatred ways. Do not mistake my nonviolence for weakness or my humility for acceptance of right abuse. I say social inequality must be reduced. On the one hand, we reconcile. On the other hand, I ask for a word that's been on hold for a while. Injustice done to one of us is injustice done to all of us. So to all those justice believers out there, I say, keep doing it, for it always seems impossible until it's done. Let us finish the race that Madiba began. Tell them about Julius Nyerere from Tanzania.
I am Julius Nyerere's prophecy. This son of Zanaki chief Ujamaa policy guided us to the truth that no nation had the right to make decisions for another, no one people for the other. He inspired a Swahili culture to unite. His zeal for decolonialization, for Africanization made us tight as he brought us independence in a quest for self-reliance. His leadership championed liberation to all nations, arguing for us to either unite now or perish somehow. Without unity, there's no future for Africa.
Let me tell you about my Shuja, Mama Samia.
Kazi Endele.
She is my president. She's our mother. She is my hero. In Tanzania,
she reconciles,
she reforms, she rebuilds to make Tanzania resilient.
Thank you for inspiring us, Mama.
And when I grow up, I want to be just like you.
Kazi Endele.
Because my people are, therefore I am.
I'm all the men and women before me.
I'm all the children after me.
I'm Africa's pride and wings.
I carry the beauty of queens,
the courage of kings,
and the very new African dream. Yours truly, Africa's cream de la cream, the daughter of the land. I am.
Mungu ibariki Afrika.
A gentle word, very precious gold. It does not go with violence. It needs tolerance, respect in abundance that will bring stability and the ability to build a prosperous Africa, Hakika. Africa way, Africa way. For the past 20 years, Africa, we have made significant stride, Hakika. Yes, our countries are secured, assured, though still, for the next 2 decades, we need to access this axis of peace and a mandate of promoting it, securing it, and stabilizing Africa. As we remain steadfast steadfast to silence guns, especially removing them from children's hands. A conflict-free Africa, a dream of our founding fathers and mothers, a unified Africa. See, for the next 2 decades, we need to stop relying only on the government for keeping peace. Hakika. Let's do mediation, community dialogue, conversations, humanitarian stand in position. Women should be in the inclusion, youth in participation, as we keep on pushing for our children's safety and forging for peace and support productions in Africa. Oh, peace, such a gentle word. However, to secure it in this world, we must not choose a sword. If our unity we hold and stand in one accord. Africa. Sande sana.
Why Mama Land? Why Butuland? Why can't we born and peace in us find? Hate and greedy leaves us needy. This is so plunder. This should not be found in me and you back to land. Let's go back to Ubuntu.
Thank you so very much. That was Hini Africa, Tanzanians, multiple generation, showcasing what today means to them. It's about young people seeing and believing that one day we'll have a peaceful Africa, free of conflicts, but also united in the spirit of Africanness and celebrating our humanity as one people. Your Excellency, Madam President, Your Excellency, President of Zanzibar, distinguished leaders in the podium, together with all the delegates that are present here today. Before we invite Madam President to give her keynote address, I wish to also speculate the article that will follow next in the agenda after her speech, which will be to unveil the peace and security visual identity. For the past 20 years, we did not have a visual identity. Now, it will be unveiled after we listen to the keynote address by Madam President Samia Suluhu Hassan. Together in the unveiling event, they will be joined by AU Chairperson, now currently is Mauritania, and AU Commission Chairperson, His Excellency Mahamat Faki. Before that, allow me now, in a singular most honor and pleasure, to invite the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, to give her keynote address in this auspicious occasion as we celebrate 20th year anniversary of the African Union Peace and Security Council. Madam President, please welcome to the podium.
May we be seated? Thank you. I've seen the translating gadgets with you, so I'm going to switch to Swahili a little bit, and then I'll come back to the normal channel. So you may use your gadgets. Mheshimiwa Rais wa Zanzibar na Mwenyekiti wa Baraza la Mapinduzi Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, wawakilishi wa wakuu wa nchi na serikali mlioko hapa, waheshimiwa wakuu wa nchi na serikali wastaafu, Mheshimiwa Olusegun Obasanjo, Mheshimiwa Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete na Mheshimiwa Domitien Ndayizeye. Mheshimiwa Musa Faki Mahamat, mwenyekiti wa Kamisheni ya Umoja wa Afrika, Mheshimiwa January Makamba, waziri wa mambo ya nje na ushirikiano wa Afrika Mashariki, Mheshimiwa Tax, waziri wa ulinzi wa Tanzania, waheshimiwa mawaziri mlioko hapa wa Tanzania na nje ya Tanzania, mwenyeji wetu mkuu wa mkoa wa Dar es Salaam Albert Chalamila, waheshimiwa wakilishi wa kudumu wa nchi, wajumbe wa Baraza la Amani na Usalama wa nchi wa Afrika, wa Umoja wa Afrika, Madam mwenyekiti wa Kamishna wa masuala ya siasa, amani na usalama, Ambassador Bankole Adeyo, Ambassador Said Jinit, First Commissioner from Peace and Security, Madam Chair of the Panel of the Wise, with us here, wageni waalikwa, mabibi na mabwana, habari ya asubuhi, yani bado asubuhi. Ndugu viongozi, mabibi na mabwana, leo imetimia miaka 20 tangu kuanzishwa kwa Baraza la Amani na Usalama la Umoja wa Afrika. Baraza hilo lina jukumu la kuzuia, kudhibiti na kutatua migogoro katika bara letu la Afrika, kama ilivyosemwa vizuri na mwenyekiti wa Kamisheni ya Afrika. Hivyo nikiwa mwenyekiti wa Baraza la Amani na Usalama kwa kipindi cha mwezi Mei mwaka huu, ninayo furaha kuwakaribisha Dar es Salaam, Tanzania katika maadhimisho ya miaka 20 tangu kuanzishwa kwa baraza hili. Nawapongeza sana wote waliofanya maandalizi ya maadhimisho haya. Hongereni sana. Pia kama mnavyojua, kila tarehe 25 Mei bara la Afrika huadhimisha siku ya Afrika. Hivyo nitumie fursa hii kuwatakia nyote heri ya siku ya Afrika. Na kama ilivyokuwa tangu enzi za Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, napenda kuhakikishia kwamba Tanzania itaendelea kutoa kipaumbele katika kuhakikisha kuwa umoja wetu unafikia malengo tuliojiwekea. Hakika historia ya mafanikio yetu katika harakati za ukombozi wa bara la Afrika lazima itupe hamasa katika jitihada zetu za sasa za kulinda amani, kujiletea maendeleo na kuhakikisha ustawi wa watu wetu. Waheshimiwa viongozi, pamoja nasi tumepata heshima ya kuungana na Mheshimiwa Olusegun Obasanjo, Rais mstaafu wa Jamhuri ya Shirikisho la Nigeria. Mnamo tarehe 25 Mei mwaka 2004, Mheshimiwa Obasanjo alikuwa mwenyekiti wa mkutano wa kwanza kabisa wa Baraza la Amani na Usalama la AU. Akiwa ni kiongozi ambaye ameliona baraza hili likifanya kazi kwa miaka mingi hadi leo, tunatazamia kusikia na kujifunza mengi kutoka kwake na kupata busara zake pia. Mbali na mzee Obasanjo, tupo na viongozi wengine wastaafu ambao kama inavyoonekana kwenye mpangilio wa shughuli za leo tutawasikia wakitoa maoni yao kuhusu baraza hili. Lakini kwa ufupi niwatambulishe. Tunaye Mheshimiwa Domitien Ndayizeye, Rais mstaafu wa Jamhuri ya Burundi, ambaye ni mjumbe wa Baraza la Wazee wa Umoja wa Afrika. Tunaye pia Mheshimiwa Dr. Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, Rais mstaafu wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, ambaye alikuwa waziri wa mambo ya nje wakati baraza linaanzishwa, na kama rais pia nyakati tofauti alikuwa mwenyekiti wa baraza hili. Vile vile tunaye Mheshimiwa Saidi Djinnit, kamishna wa kwanza wa amani na usalama wa Umoja wa Afrika, aliyepewa jukumu la kuwezesha baraza hili lianze kufanya kazi. Mr. Djinnit, if you could stand up so that we see you. Okay, there he is. Nitumie fursa hii pia kuzipongeza nchi wanachama wapya waliojiunga na baraza hili kuanzia mwezi Aprili mwaka huu na kuahidi ushirikiano wa kutosha kutoka kwetu. Ndugu viongozi na wageni walikwa, wakati baraza hili likiadhimisha miaka 10 ya kuanzishwa kwake mwezi Mei 2014, kama ilivyo sasa, Tanzania pia ilikuwa mwenyekiti wa mwenzi wa baraza hili. Hata hivyo, hafla rasmi ya kuadhimisha miaka 10 haikufanyika mwezi huo, bali ilifanyika mwezi Juni 2014 nchini Equatorial Guinea, ambapo mwenyekiti wa mwenzi alikuwa Rais Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Uganda, na ndiye aliongoza maadhimisho hayo. Hivyo basi ninafarijika kwamba mara hii miaka 10 baadaye Tanzania sio tu mwenyekiti wa mwenzi wa baraza hili, lakini pia imepata fursa ya kuwa nchi mwenyeji wa kuadhimisha kutimiza miaka 20 ya baraza hili. Watanzania tujipongeze. Waheshimiwa, maadhimisho haya yamepewa kauli mbiu isemayo miaka 20 ya Baraza la Amani na Usalama la Umoja wa Afrika kama chombo cha kudumu cha maamuzi miongo miwili ijayo ya amani na usalama ya Afrika tuitakayo. Kauli mbiu hii inatutaka kufanya tathmini ya safari yetu tangu kuanzishwa kwa baraza hili hadi sasa na kutafakari kwa kina tuendako. Baada ya miongo miwili ya uwepo wa baraza, tumejifunza nini? Na ni mikakati ipi tunapaswa kuiweka ili kuhakikisha tunakuwa na Afrika tunayoitaka yenye amani katika miongo miwili ijayo. Tangu kuanzishwa kwake, Baraza la Amani na Usalama limekuwa na nafasi muhimu katika kukuza amani, usalama na utulivu katika bara letu la Afrika. Mnamo tarehe 26 Disemba mwaka 2003, itifaki ya kuanzishwa baraza hilo ilianza kutekelezwa kufuatia kuridhiwa na nchi wanachama 27 wa Umoja wa Afrika. Hadi kufikia mwezi Mei 2004, wakati baraza lilipofanya kikao chake cha kwanza, nchi wanachama 32 zilikuwa zimeridhia itifaki hiyo. Leo hii nafurahi kusema kwamba nchi wanachama 53 zimekusha ridhia itifaki hiyo kati ya nchi wanachama 55 wa Umoja wa Afrika. Hii inadhihirisha kwamba nchi wanachama zinatambua kuwa baraza hili lina nafasi muhimu sana katika kuleta amani na usalama barani Afrika. Miaka 20 iliyopita, wakati chombo hiki kinaanzishwa, kilipewa dhima ya kiutendaji katika kushughulikia migogoro kwa ufanisi na kuimarisha uwezo wa kuleta amani, usalama na utulivu kote barani Afrika. Ilifanywa hivyo kwa kutambua nafasi hasi ya vita na mapigano katika kurudisha nyuma maendeleo ya jamii. Tangu kuanzishwa kwake, baraza limepata mafanikio mbalimbali, ikiwa ni pamoja na kuanzishwa majadiliano ya upatanishi hadi kusaidia nchi kujengwa upya baada ya vita, yani post conflict reconstruction and development. Baraza pia limekuwa na mchango katika kukabiliana na migogoro na matishio mbalimbali ya kiusalama kutoka Sahel hadi Somalia. Baraza pia limechangia juhudi za bara letu katika kukabiliana na ugaidi. Katika utekelezaji wa majukumu yake, baraza limejidhatiti kusimamia misingi ya haki za binadamu, demokrasia na utawala bora. Vile vile limeangazia masuala ya ushirikishwaji wa wanawake na vijana kwenye masuala ya amani na usalama, na hivyo kutambua nafasi muhimu ya wanawake na vijana katika ujenzi wa amani. Katika ngazi za kitaifa, baraza limeshirikiana na nchi zinazokabiliwa na changamoto za amani na usalama na kufanya ziara katika nchi hizo, na ziara hizo zimeliwezesha baraza kuelewa vyema changamoto za kiusalama, kusikiliza kutoka kwa wanaohusika na wanaosibiwa na migogoro hiyo na kuonesha mshikamano kwa waathirika wa migogoro hiyo. Kikanda, regionally, baraza linaendelea kushirikiana na jumuiya za kiuchumi za kikanda ili kuimarisha uratibu wa jitihada za amani na usalama na kubadilishana uzoefu. Baraza hili limekuwa na mashirikiano ya kitaasisi na Baraza la Umoja wa Mataifa na Kamati ya Siasa na Usalama ya Umoja wa Ulaya, na hivyo kuongeza ushawishi wa bara la Afrika duniani. Tunayo kila sababu ya kupongeza jitihada au juhudi za wajumbe watatu wa Afrika kwenye Baraza la Usalama la Umoja wa Mataifa, yani A3, hususan katika kutetea misimamo ya pamoja ya Umoja wa Afrika katika ajenda za Baraza la Usalama la Umoja wa Mataifa. Mwaka jana tumeshuhudia Baraza la Usalama la Umoja wa Mataifa likiridhia wito wa muda mrefu wa Umoja wa Afrika kuhusu operations za kulinda amani za Umoja wa Afrika kupata ufadhili wa Umoja wa Mataifa, hatua ambayo ni muhimu katika kuhakikisha kunakuwa na uwezo endelevu na hali inayotabirika ya rasilimali kwa ajili ya misheni hizo za Umoja wa Afrika. Nawapongeza wajumbe wote wa baraza hili na kamisheni, akiwemo mwenyekiti, kamishna wa masuala ya kisiasa, amani na usalama, Secretariat ya Baraza la Amani na Usalama na washirika wote ambao wamechangia kufanikisha kazi ya baraza hili tangu kuanzishwa kwake. Excellencies, in spite of these achievements, challenges persist, and some of them have been nicely mentioned by the chair of the AU Commission, Mr. Faki. We are witnessing conflicts, transnational crime, and a lack of effective preventive actions. Overall, we still have not completely silenced the guns in Africa. Another notable challenge is in the unconstitutional change of governments and protracted restoration of civilian-led constitutional order. The recurrence of such challenges raises critical questions, including why do these setbacks persist? And also the question, are we consistently applying our norms and as they relate to these matters? Myself, I don't have the answers, but I'll leave the questions to this August gathering to be addressed. Fellow Africans, notwithstanding this, those who were in charge then, the likes of President Obasanjo, will agree with me that the nature of conflicts and nature of threats faced by the continent today have evolved. Additionally, there have been matters that have been recurring on Council's table that have thus evaded effective resolution. In my view, this deviates from the spirit shared during the establishment of this Council. This is why today's discussion is so crucial, and your contributions are key, both to get the lessons that we have learned and for planning the way forward. I believe the lessons learned will be taken up and being worked out by the leaders and experts here present. On my part, I wish to touch on a few, and one is enhancing our preventive capabilities or capacities, 2, utilizing the instruments at our disposal, and 3, enhancing relations with the key stakeholders. Now, pertaining to the preventive diplomacy and resolving conflicts, the key lesson here is that early action is less costly and that prevention should be an ongoing effort. As such, of necessity, we need to strengthen early warning systems and conflict prevention mechanisms. We also need to prioritize inclusive mediation, dialogue, and reconciliation processes. The Council will be well served by enhancing its focus on country-based situations with a view to follow up on implementation of its decisions and intervening to support where necessary. With regards to the AU instruments, we have frameworks in place that are at present not fully utilized. As such, I'm convinced that the robust implementation of these instruments, including the AU Master Road Plan on silencing the guns in Africa, is key in guiding our efforts to promote peace and security. We must also fully prioritize, operationalize, and utilize the African Standby Force and the AU Peace Fund to enhance our capacity to undertake our security initiatives. And in terms of engagement with stakeholders, we acknowledge that involvement of women and youth in peace process and regional mechanism closer to the conflict situation is key. Going forward, the Council should seek to empower women and youth as agents of positive change. We should invest more in strengthening regional integration and collaboration. We also need to invest more in capacity building initiatives and fostering grassroots resilience, as some of these conflicts are historical and some of them is due to tribal misunderstandings. Globally, we also need to enhance partnerships with regional and international stakeholders such as the United Nations, African Development Bank, civil society organizations, and other development partners to mobilize resources and expertise for effective peace and security interventions. Lastly, I wish to make a call concerning two major peace and security threats on the continent. Foremost, terrorism and violent extremism, which presently concern all AU regions. The extraordinary summit held in May 2022 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, provided guidance to the continent on concrete steps to combat this menace. It is our responsibility to ensure that the Malabo Declaration is fully implemented. It is also important to reflect to how we can comprehensively address terrorism and in the continent, including through enhancing regional and international partnership, intelligence sharing, and coordinated actions. The second threat is that the resurgence of unconstitutional changes of government. What is lacking that allows this setback? As member states, we must act on the decisions adopted by the PSC and ensure affected countries swiftly return to constitutional order, while also addressing the root causes of such changes, including governance deficits and political stability. Waheshimiwa viongozi, mabibi na mabwana, kabla sijahitimisha, niwahakikishie kwamba ni dhamira ya Tanzania kukuza amani na usalama barani Afrika ili kuweka mazingira stahiki ya kujenga ustawi wa kijamii na kiuchumi kwa watu wetu. Nikimnukuu hayati Nelson Mandela alisema, amani ni kutengeneza mazingira ambapo kila mtu anaweza kustawi, na kinyume cha hivyo hakuna amani. Bila shaka, jitihada za pamoja ni muhimu katika kukabiliana na changamoto za kiusalama zinazotukabili na katika kukuza maendeleo ya kijamii na kiuchumi ndani ya bara letu la Afrika. Baada ya kusema hayo, sasa na heshima kutamka rasmi kwamba kongamano la kuadhimisha miaka 20 ya Baraza la Amani na Usalama la Umoja wa Afrika limefunguliwa. Asanteni sana kwa kunisikiliza. Karibuni.
sana Mheshimiwa Rais kwa kuenziwa na Afrika kwa mchango wako mkubwa na uongozi wako mahiri na imara kutuendesha You may now be seated. Your Excellencies, please remain on the stage. After recognition of the outstanding leadership of Madam President, Madam President will now to recognize also the outstanding leadership of the former presidents that are here present today for their leadership in steering different peace and security missions within the African Union while they are in leadership. I'll call upon the President of Tanzania, former President of Tanzania, former President of Nigeria, and former President of Burundi. Please join the Excellencies on the stage, please. Also, may I call upon the President of Zanzibar and the Chairperson of the Revolutionary Council to join the stage, as our former leaders are being decorated for their service by the President of the United Republic of Tanzania. And the Chair of the AU of Peace and Security Commission. Please join us. Asante Mheshimiwa. Decorating His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, former President of Nigeria, and now decorating His Excellency Domitien Ndayizeye, former President of Burundi. And last but not least, decorating former President of the United Republic of Tanzania, and also decorating His Excellency Mahamat Faki. So much, Excellencies, for that occasion. Indeed, a truly honor for us as a country and as a nation to witness this another yet momentous occasion in the history of Africa. History is made here today. Your Excellencies, now may we hear goodwill messages from those that are also in service in this month Peace and Security Council. May I now call upon Honorable John Mulimba, Minister of State for Regional Cooperation of the Republic of Uganda, for his goodwill message.
Mheshimiwa Daktari Samia Suluhu Hassan, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Mheshimiwa Hussein Mwinyi, Rais wa Zanzibar na mwenyekiti wa Baraza la Mapinduzi, Mheshimiwa mwenyekiti wa Tume la Afrika, Muungano wa Afrika, Musa Faki, waheshimiwa wawakilishi wa marais kutoka Afrika kutoka Mauritius na Mozambique, waheshimiwa marais wastaafu Mzee Obasanjo, Mzee Mrisho Kikwete na Mzee Ndayizeye, waziri kutoka nchi za Afrika mbalimbali, kamishna wa Baraza la Usalama, Siasa na Amani wa Tume la Afrika, wajumbe wa Baraza la Amani kutoka Muungano wa Afrika, mabalozi mlio hapa, wageni walikwa, mabibi na mabwana. Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri la Muungano wa Tanzania, jina langu ni Mlimba John. Mimi ni waziri wa mambo ya kigeni anayehusika na masuala ya kikanda. Nilionya kwenye ratiba mwenye aliweka maandishi au kutoa kichwa vizuri. Kwanza kabisa, Mheshimiwa Rais, nataka kuletea salamu kutoka kwa kakako Rais Jenerali mstaafu Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Uganda, ambao hakuweza kuwa hapa kimwili, lakini kutokana na umuhimu wa kamati hii amenituma nije nimwakilishe. Huu mkutano ni muhimu wa kimkakati, alafu naambatana na maadhimisho ya miaka 20 ya amani na usalama katika Afrika. Na kwa hivyo tunataka kuchukua hii fursa kupongeza wewe Madamu Rais wa Jamhuri ya Tanzania. Tunakupa pongezi kwa kushika uongozi wa mwezi wa Mai na namna unavyoendelesha kiketi na unavyoendelesha hii baraza tangu uchukue kiti. Nimesema lazima niongee kilugha ya babu tukija hapa katika jiji hili la Pwani la Dar es Salaam, sababu mlivyoona watoto waliotuonyesha hapa wamezungumza kuhusu Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, na ndiye alipigania kuona ya kwamba lazima tuongee kilugha ya Afrika ya kipekee, yani ni Kiswahili. Lazima nitimize hili. Mheshimiwa Rais, sababu nimetumwa na taarifa na kwa kutaka kukamilisha maagizo maalum niliyopewa, tafadhali utanibalia tena nirudie kwa Kiingereza niweze kusoma hii taarifa. The inauguration of Peace and Security Council 20 years ago was heralded as a watershed moment in Africa's progress towards resolving its conflicts in building a stable, secure, peaceful, and developed Africa. Over time, Council has taken leadership on all issues of interest on the continent, be they country-specific conflict situations or thematic issues. This involved the deployment of peace support operations, high representatives, envoys, and a panel of the wise for preventive diplomacy, which has had a positive effect on many occasions. As we look towards the next 2 decades, we ought to pause and reflect on the lessons learned over the time and suggest new innovative methods of work so as to build the peace and security we want. What is clear is that today, despite our best intentions, we are still confronted with many challenges, including, but not limited to, terrorism and violent extremism, climate change, and constitutional changes of government, intra- and interstate conflicts, transnational organized crime, including illicit proliferation of small arms and light weapons, issues of migration, etc. Your Excellencies, many of our young men and women have been lured into acts of terror and violent conflict by radical extremists who promise them an alternative and better livelihood. We therefore must work towards addressing the issues of human security, what we call in Uganda issues of the stomach, as a way of winning the hearts and minds of our people, so as to deprive the radical elements in our communities of the fertile ground for recruitment. How do we do that? Perhaps the first step is to build our own strength and minimize weakness. We know that 65% of our uncultivated arable land left in the world lies in Africa. The world and agribusiness sector is projected to grow from US $330 billion to $1 trillion US by 2030. We therefore need to engage in production and leverage Africa continental free trade area and do business with each other, thereby increasing household incomes and eradicating poverty. The second issue is value addition to our raw materials. Take, for example, coffee. The global value of coffee business currently is US $460 billion. However, all coffee producing countries in the world take US $25 billion of this value. Africa's share is US $2.4 billion, with Uganda taking only US $800 million, because we are now producing 8 million bags of 60 kilograms. Germany, on the other hand, earns $6.85 billion from coffee, more than all Africa coffee-producing countries. A kilogram of good coffee today earns about US $2.5. The same kilogram roasted and processed outside Africa earns US $40. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa predicts that by transforming Africa's mineral export volume by just 5% before export, it can create 5 million jobs a year. This means that if we added value to our products, we would not be only able to create the necessary jobs on the continent, but many of our young men and women are looking for, and thereby economically empowering them. But we would also get more value for our products and be able to power and structurally transform our economies. This will reorient our people away from the politics of identity to politics of interest. The politics of identity has caused many intrastate conflicts in Africa, leading to mass atrocities. This is the intersection between peace, security, stability, and development. Thirdly, we have to make a call on how to manage our politics. The underlying problem in the political architecture of Africa is sometimes the limited appreciation of the critical role of inclusive and broad-based governance in promoting cohesion, harmony, and stability in Africa. We must avoid the politics of excluding certain actors from national political processes. This, in most cases, is the root cause of many intrastate conflicts. We ought therefore to allow all key political actors to engage in the political processes, including competing for any political office in the land through elections, as long as they meet the constitutional requirements. It is for this reason that we do not support any unconstitutional changes of government. Anyone who wants to access the highest office of the land should be able to subject themselves to the will of the people. To this end, it is important that the African Union to always implement its normative instruments in ensuring zero tolerance to unconstitutional changes of government. In the same vein, we should commit to build strong and professional armies which are equipped with the correct ideology of non-sectarianism, Pan-Africanism, and nationalism in order to defeat terrorism. Part of the reason why we have unconstitutional changes of government is weak and unprofessional armies that do not have the correct ideology and sometimes infiltrated by external actors. Your Excellencies, fourthly, we reiterate the need to fully operationalize the African Standby Force. Its rapid deployment capability, Sudan is burning despite our best efforts and taking a heavy toll on the population and the region. The African Standby Force was intended as a quick reaction capacity that should enable the continent to respond swiftly to a crisis situation of this nature, unhampered by any heavy political and instrumental burdens. The Peace and Security Council has taken decisions on peace and security, but what we lack at this point is an enforcement mechanism. Perhaps the Africa Standby Force would help us in this regard. We therefore call for its full operationalization. Fifthly, we need to deal with the issue of financing our peace and security activities. We take note of the progress made with the establishment of Peace Fund and its crisis reserve facility. However, our peace support operations have been challenged by the lack of more predictable and sustainable source of funding, including limitations on force multipliers and enablers. I wish to salute our partners such as the UN, EU, UK, and others for their support. We take note of the UN Security Council Resolution 2719 and call for its operationalization. In the same vein, we may need to explore innovative means of internal resource mobilization, including special levies and engagement with the private sector and continental financial institutions. This does not in any way seek to absolve the UN Security Council of its primary responsibility to maintain international peace and security. The time has come for the AU to access UN-assessed contribution for AU-led peace missions. Sixth, the early warning systems is a good innovation aimed at providing timely advice so as to enable development of appropriate response strategies to prevent or resolve conflicts on the continent. We need to agree on a trigger point for early warning. We urge the Commission to develop a clear and objective criteria for trigger mechanism so as to facilitate the role of the Council in assessing the need for early action. And such an approach should be consistently applied in all relevant circumstances. In conclusion, we support the view that the protocol is sufficient to deal with the challenges on the continent. However, the effectiveness of the Peace and Security Council depends on the implementation of decisions. In many, if not all instances, member states have a key role to play. We will therefore commit to each playing their part, namely member states, African Union Commission, the REX, the RMs, and international community in creating the Africa we want. Mheshimiwa Rais, kabla sijatoka kwenye jukwaa hili, nikubalie tena nichukue fursa hii kushukuru wewe Mheshimiwa Rais na kupitia kwako wananchi wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania kwa mapokezi mazuri na ukarimu tangu mimi na ujumbe wangu tuliowasili hapa jijini Dar es Salaam, jiji la amani na maendeleo. Nakushukuru sana. Nataka kusema hongereni sana kwa kukalisha hii shirika wakati tunadhimisha miaka 20 ya amani kwa Muungano wa Afrika. Na tena nataka kusema Mungu ibariki Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Mungu ibariki Afrika na watu wake, Mungu ibariki Afrika na watoto wake. Asante.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for those remarks. Another goodwill message now. Your Excellency, Madam President, allow me, representing the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, who is the current chair of the African Union in this time. May I now call upon on the stage His Excellency Mulawai Mohammed Laghdaf, Minister Secretary General to the Presidency of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa Waziri.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. سأتكلم لغة غير بعيدة عن اللغة السواحلية، أكاد أقول أنها أختها. في البداية أشكر حكومة جمهورية تنزانيا المتحدة الشقيقة على حفاوة الاستقبال وكرم الضيافة التي حظينا بها منذ وصولنا لهذا البلد الجميل، وأن أشكرهم على جودة التنظيم والتسهيلات المقدمة من أجل نجاح هذا الاجتماع. كما أود أن أنقل إليكم تحيات أخيكم صاحب الفخامة محمد الشيخ الغزواني رئيس الجمهورية الإسلامية الموريتانية رئيس الاتحاد الإفريقي، وتمنياته لكم بالتوفيق والنجاح في أعمالكم، فقد كان حريصا على المشاركة معكم لولا بعض المشاغل الطارئة، وقد كلفني بل وأقول شرفني بتمثيله في هذا الاجتماع الهام وإلقاء كلمته نيابة عنه أمام جمعكم الموقر. وإليكم نص الخطاب. صاحبة الفخامة سامية صلوح حسن رئيسة جمهورية تنزانيا المتحدة الشقيقة، رئيسة مجلس السلم والأمن بالاتحاد الإفريقي، أصحاب الفخامة رؤساء الدول الأعضاء بمجلس السلم والأمن للاتحاد الإفريقي، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة ممثل الدول الأعضاء، معالي السيد موسى فقي محمد رئيس مفوضية الاتحاد الإفريقي، أصحاب السعادة المفوضون، أصحاب السعادة السفراء، أيها السيدات والسادة. اسمحوا لي أن أعبر لأختي صاحبة الفخامة سامية صلوح حسن عن مشاعر التقدير والاحترام وعن جزيل الشكر على استضافة تنزانيا لهذا الاجتماع الهام وعلى ما وفرته له من أسباب النجاح. وأود كذلك أن أشكر رئيس مفوضية الاتحاد الإفريقي صاحب المعالي موسى فقي محمد على الجهود التي يبذلها من أجل تحقيق السلام والأمن في القارة الإفريقية. كما لا يسعني إلا أن أهنئ سعادة المفوض السيد بانكولي أديو على إدارته